We now go to historian, doctor of history, and also he's an economist and author on Obama, who wrote the unauthorized biography on our lordship. Webster Tarpley, fresh back from Damascus there in D.C., or I guess you're in Maryland today. Tarpley, tell us what you've seen.
Well, I've been in Damascus, as you've mentioned, and in Homs, and in a place called Banyas, and also in Syria, which is on the coast. I've been through the port city of Tartus, and this is now the place where just after I passed through there, we have the arrival of this Russian naval task force. I don't think they're all in the port. The port of Tartus has been expanded and upgraded with some rather important, additions to the facilities over the last couple of years. And the information I have, one report comes from General Michel Aoun, the head of the Christians of Lebanon. I think a figure like de Gaulle, the savior of Lebanon. He told me a week ago, the Saturday morning, that the Russian fleet had actually arrived, and I got this confirmed from a Russian journalist, a woman working in Damascus, and it's a fleet that's composed of the Admiral Kuznetsov, which is an aircraft carrier, or at least a helicopter carrier, maybe a through-deck cruiser, might be a term. Yeah,
it's like a troop carrier helicopter. It's kind of like the Coronado Marine Corps ship.
Right, and then we've got a heavy cruiser, the Moskva. The Moskva is a heavy-duty, heavy cruiser with missiles on board. 3 or 4 nuclear submarines, and the trick with the submarines is you don't know how many because they're underwater. If they come through the Bosphorus and the Dardanelles, if they were coming from Odessa and the Russian Black Sea Fleet, then they would have to surface as they go through the Bosphorus and the Dardanelles, because that's the Treaty of Montreux, I think, says if it's a submarine, you got to come up to the surface to go through. But according to the Russian journalist I talked to in Damascus, she said that these ships had come from Murmansk. So she said there were 3 or 4 nuclear submarines that were known, and maybe more, and I think also an anti-submarine warfare ship. So this, I think, highly significant, and I think the big thing that's hanging over all this is the tremendous, hysterical, Dr. Goebbels-style Western media blackout that this Russian fleet is there. There are even other reports that they're unloading these S-300 advanced surface-to-air missiles, the kind of thing that Gaddafi wanted, didn't get in time, the kind that Iran has asked for, and they still haven't gotten them, at least in the numbers they wanted, as far as we know. Anyway, that these are now being delivered to Syria. So this means that there's a whole new dimension of Russian support for Syria. 2 weeks ago, this past weekend, we also had the visit of the Russian Orthodox Patriarch, Kirill, Cyril. So he's Patriarch Cyril of the Russian Orthodox Church, the top religious authority of the Russian Federation, at least of the Christians, and he came there to Damascus to meet with the Grand Mufti of Damascus, who is a very interesting figure in his own right. I recommend you look him up. So the idea is that you've got a pattern, and you've also got now Foreign Minister Lavrov of Russia is saying we want you to stop with these ultimatums to Syria, stop with this stuff. He's responding to a French madman, Alain Juppé. The Foreign Minister of France says it's time to cut humanitarian corridors into Syria and set up humanitarian... And
that's a total repeat of the Libya and the humanitarian love bombs. But you were there. We weren't able to get a hold of you after you were first on there in the sniper areas. And now It's coming out that indeed that is the Al-Qaeda forces. Even the London Telegraph admits Al-Qaeda is now taking over all of Libya. The military leader is a top Al-Qaeda operative who openly says murder the Americans and all this. That's his CIA cover. We've also got them at least 600 landing there. And then secondarily now, since you've been there, I want to hear about what you saw there bravely in areas under sniper attack, Webster. You never like to toot your horn, but you've been in the middle of it. Then I want to continue. Russia threatens to block NATO routes that they're using since Pakistan's cut off their route into Afghanistan. What's happening with that base being bombed? By the way, Hamid Gul is on tomorrow, folks. Former head of Pakistani intelligence at the start of the show. I wanted to just confirm that's coming up. Also, Webster, we now have these huge explosions all over Iran, blowing up a lot of their missile facilities, killing their top commanders. Now the media is basically admitting the West is running operations there. The Iranians have hit the British embassy. I mean, clearly things are escalating right now.
Yes, I think you could say the Anglo-American mad dog imperialists are running amok. They are in a manic, hysterical war psychosis, a flight forward. This is now a new surge. I guess we haven't seen anything quite at this level since about 2000.
Webster, the MF Global's making 40-to-1 bets, and there's now statements in the news where they said that's just the way it is. Insanely, 40-to-1 bets that were guaranteed to fail, losing $12 billion in one day and just frothing around. I mean, the elite has gone totally insane.
Yes, and it's good that you bring this up, because this is, I think there's a certain causal chain. In other words, when you take a ruling elite like the Anglo-American financier oligarchy, these are finance capitalists. These are zombie bankers, hedge fund hyenas, and all the rest. They go nuts. They go bonkers when their derivative structures and their debt structures, their collateralized debt obligations and structured investment vehicles, when those go into negative leverage, into reverse leverage, and they start pyramiding astronomical, unbelievable losses at the top of these pyramids that they create, they go nuts, and they say, increase the rate of primitive accumulation, of looting, of sacking, of pillaging, of robbing, exploiting the world. Then they're told, well, there are these governments that seem to get in the way. There's the Syrian government that insists on selling bread for about 25 cents for 2.2 pounds. 1 kilo of pretty good bread, I've had some, for about a quarter. And they say, that's impossible. We want that to cost $25 for that kind of bread, so we can send the money to Wall Street in the city of London. So all of these governments are in the way. And this has been the story of the whole Arab Spring. And then in the middle of this, look at that band of territory that goes from Lebanon. Lebanon is now governed pretty much by an alliance of the Hezbollah pro-Iranian forces.
Listen, I want to get into all the geopolitical intricacies here, but bottom line, the elites are panicking. They're all going to go to jail unless they start World War III. And they're announcing they're going to arrest citizens for no reason and put us in FEMA camps. That's in the news. And it's just a frothing. They're like flopping around at the cocktail party, insane. But they're the boss, so that's just the way it is.
But now, in the middle of all this, you've got to pick the one point when you have opposition forces, as we do, that are weak and disorganized and confused. There's got to be a clear trumpet. In other words, what do you do under these circumstances? What's the one point where activity, where a political assault, a political attack can actually have some importance? Finance capital is the enemy. Wall Street is the enemy. The financiers, the zombie bankers, the hedge fund hyenas. This is what's behind the whole thing.
Yeah, they're the opposite of free market, too. They're just absolute crony capitalist, insider crooks who then are always given more power for the messes they create.
Yeah, they talk free market, but what they actually carry on is the fascist corporate state on the Mussolini model. And again, the Syrian case is highly interesting.
Yeah, so bottom line, you were there, the sniper attacks, all that stuff's coming out, it's staged. Are they going to have the nerve to start the love bombing, the kinetic love, and will all the trendies dance around and be happy?
Look, a lot depends on Russia. I would say just about everything depends on Russia right now. As Gideon Wells, the Secretary of the Navy, said in 1863 and 1864, God bless the Russians. Thank God for Putin under these circumstances. Thank God he's making a comeback, because if we had Medvedev with full power, the bombing of Syria and the civil war in Syria would already be going on. Notice that one of the things that's changing is the U.S. is leaving Iraq. That is, the large numbers of forces are departing. And what that conjures up then is a belt of territory that goes from Lebanon to Syria, across the Shiite parts of Iraq, and into Iran. That's basically going to be one continuous belt, and they're opposed to the U.S. and the British, right? They don't like the imperialists for whatever reasons, and there are many reasons, and a lot of them are good reasons. So the idea now is if Iraq is falling away from U.S. control, and you can see it, right? The Iraqis refused to vote the sanctions against Syria at the Arab League. They joined with Lebanon, Algeria, and Iraq, said no. we will not take part in the economic warfare against Syria. It means that that whole thing is meaningless.
Yeah, because they've already enjoyed decades of mass starvation and loving sanctions and love bombs.
Privatized and everything. So the idea now is they wanted, the whole idea was to attack Syria, so you'd isolate Hezbollah, you'd destroy the only ally that Iran had, other than Iraq. But now that doesn't, it seems not to be working. So I would just caution everybody, right? The Anglo-Americans are as mad as hatters. They're as mad as March hares.
Look at them. They're all making 40-to-1 crazy bets. I mean, I think they're going to start World War III. Look how Cheney tried to start World War III with Russia on 888 with the Georgia. But Tarpley, I want to go to break and come back. What about the Pakistan situation? What's up with them blowing up military bases now?
Well, we've had this all year, right? And we had the U.S. Pressure, of course. The U.S. threat is to seize the Pakistani nuclear forces, to destroy them or to steal them, and set the stage for Pakistan being broken up into 4 or 5 parts. This is the long-standing scenario. Now, Pakistan has been fighting back. The first thing they got was that secret ultimatum from China about 6 months ago, where China said to the U.S., back off, you bums. We are going to treat any attack on Pakistan as an attack on China. Just now we've had the conference of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and there Putin has come forward as the personal sponsor of Pakistan becoming a full member, not just an observer, but a full member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Now you'd think a double guarantee for Pakistan would be enough. If China and Russia are both on record as supporting Pakistan, that ought to be enough to make the Anglo-Americans back off. But apparently not. Apparently they're so crazy that they're going to try to drive this strategy home. They may think that the government is weak or that there are other things they can take advantage of. But the fact is, they've just killed 25 Pakistani soldiers. This is absolutely...
Well, they loved them. They love bombed them. Come on.